Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Erdley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Welcome back to the Resilient Retail Game Plan. I'm Catherine. I'm your host as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club. The Resilient Retail Club is my membership group for product businesses. If you go to resilientretailclub.com, you can sign up. And if you use the code 10podcast, that's 10podcast, you can get £10 off your first month. Today, I am joined by Thalia, who runs a business called Wild Books. And what I really thought was interesting about Thalia's business was the way that she has incorporated an element of circularity into her business right from the get-go, as well as covering some really big themes around things like how do you build in recurring revenue to your business and how do you build a community. So we're going to hear some really practical tips about all of those areas. And if this is something you've been considering for your business, then take a listen. So, welcome to the podcast, Thalia. Do you want to start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I am Thalia. I started my business in lockdown, like lots of people did, and was previously working in theatre. So, I was a theatre manager in the West End.
Oh, wow.
And felt very sad that we didn't have that space for escapism. That's kind of always been my why in what I've done, working in theatre, and now what I do is providing that space for people to escape their day-to-day worries, like go into another world. I think it's a great tool to use in terms of like helping your mental health. So in the midst of the pandemic, decided to start Botany and Books. Mm-hmm. I'm actually currently going through a rebrand and the new name of the company is Wild Books. So I'll call it Wild Books, but it started as Botany and Books.
And what made you decide to do the rebrand?
Oh gosh, I think when I started the business, it was very much, I want to do a thing. I want to be creative and produce something. And I've learned so much. I've taken a lot of messy action, but it felt right to get to the point where I wanted to really focus in on what the brand was becoming and where I wanted it to go. There was a bit about the name and a bit about the branding itself. Like I'd made it all myself and I really am ready for that like up level. And I actually did Teresa's course for sale and
amazing
towards the end of last year, and just felt like I just didn't feel good enough about the products and the branding. Like it really shone a light on the fact that I wanted things to look and feel better than they did. So that's kind of one of the big reasons why I started going through that process.
Oh, amazing. And so effectively it's about books and candles. Do you always sell them together or do you sell them separately as well?
So when I started, I was doing a book and a candle gift set every month. So I started with my favourite Virginia Woolf, and it was one book and one candle. And only when I got to a few months in did I notice that I was being asked if you could buy the candles on their own. To start with, I was like, no, I think that you need the book as well. And I want you to read the book and light the candle at the same time. But it was important to listen to my customers and what people wanted. So now I sell them separately. You can either get them as a book and candle gift set or a standalone candle. And that works quite well actually for gifts. So I do a range that's more children's classics, so Wonderland and Neverland. And you won't necessarily want or need the book to go with that.
Right.
It's a really beautiful gift on its own. So yes, you can buy them separately.
So I love this. It's the idea of the literary themed candles. So presumably the idea is kind of evoke the smell of the book.
Yeah, exactly. So rather than it just being a Pride and Prejudice candle, what I wanted when developing the concept was to create that like escapism sensory experience. So I took the location of the book as the inspiration for the scent. So all of my candles are named after locations in the book.
Yes.
So Pemberley is our Pride and Prejudice candle, and it's an Earl Grey and cucumber with a slight citrus scent, and that's all about sending you to Pemberley, Mr. Darcy's estate, high society that you would experience there. So it is all about evoking a sense of like emotion and creating ties to memories that you might have with certain smells to transport you into the world of the book.
I love that. And I particularly enjoyed the Lord of the Rings themed one because you have a Mordor candle. And I was like, wow.
I do. Yeah. I have a Lord of the Rings set. So I have the Shire, Lothlorien and Mordor. And they're definitely some of the most popular candles. I had someone who bought the Shire yesterday and their gift note said, let me get this right, we're taking the hobbits to Isengard, and like with like caps, all caps. And like, it's obviously someone quoting the book, the films in their gift note to someone, which is really good fun.
That's brilliant. Although I just recently read Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, and I was thinking you might want a candle that smelled like that because it's all about being in the sewers of London. So
I know. I do make sure they all smell nice. So that is important to me.
So let's talk a little bit about circularity, because I think that's one of the reasons that I want to have you on the podcast. We've talked about circularity a lot in previous episodes, whether it's resale or rental. But I think what's interesting is that often when people think about circularity in their businesses, it seems to be fashion that's kind of leading the way, or clothing, that people can really see how it works. So do you want to talk a little bit about how you've incorporated sort of an element of circularity into your own business?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually very much at the core of my business. So I think what I liked about starting Wild Books was that I got to make all the decisions and decide how I was going to create something. And there was, no pressure at the beginning. I had a full-time job and it was just about what I wanted to do. And I've always had a huge passion for secondhand books. So one of my favorite activities to do is to go charity shop shopping up any high street, go into all of the different charity shops and see what they have on their bookshelves. And that's always been a very calming, meditative activity for me. And I've volunteered in a couple of different bookshops, secondhand bookshops over the years. So it was always going to be secondhand books. When I knew that I wanted to start some kind of business around books, there was no question about it. And I, knew where to source them from my work with the charity shops. So it was like at the very genesis of the business. And I thought it was something a bit different as well, and it just felt right. But I think the more I've gone on throughout my business journey, the more I understand, how important it is and how unique it is perhaps in what I'm doing in like a very product-based business, as you say, not fashion. I think it's one of the things that makes the business stand out and makes it different. I actually didn't know what circularity was when I started my business, but my brother works in a green energy company. Okay. He started talking about the circular economy all the time, and I was like, "Oh, cool! I think that's kind of what I'm doing with secondhand books." And for me, like it came from a place of I love the magic of a secondhand book. Like it's got its own story, it's got its own energy that's been built through passing through lots of different hands, and I just love that element of magic around it. Yeah. So it was always going to be that way. And the more that I kind of integrated that into the business and really knew that I was never going to move away from secondhand books, I also thought about my candles. So the candles that I make are all vegan, soy wax, cruelty-free. That was always really important to me as well. But they come in these really lovely little jars, and they are glass jars with a cork top. And I just thought maybe I could also bring some circularity in here. So I have a candle jar recycling scheme. So every 4 candles that you get, you can send your jars back and get a free candle. And what I love about that and the secondhand books is that it can always be a part of the conversation, right. And it can be not just about, you know, the products that you buy from me, but having the opportunity to talk about things that matter and different ways of consuming and being a conscious consumer, and where can you make these small changes to think about reusing things and all of that. So I think from what was kind of there at the beginning, it's absolutely become integral to the way I run my business.
So how have you found the customers' reaction to this? Do you get a lot of positive response to the fact, for example, that you use secondhand books and that you offer this recycling scheme?
Yeah, definitely. I've, as I say, like it's always been there. So I think the customers who I attract are people who are on board with it. So I'm not getting any negative feedback about it, but people love it. Like, I think they love the excitement of what book cover am I going to get, because there's no guarantee what the book is going to look like. There are so many different print editions, right, which is really exciting. It's a part of the lucky dip of it all, which people enjoy. When I brought out the candle jar recycling scheme, it just absolutely, I think, fueled people's love for the fact that they didn't have to limit the number of candles that they bought. So I do get that I have subscriptions, and I have people who buy a lot of candles and get excited about the different books. And that's the thing with books. There's just an unlimited supply of stories that can inspire these candles.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I think it takes away a little bit of the guilt of, oh God, like I've got 10 jars. I'm just going to get rid of them and buy more candles. Like it gives you that sense of, oh, well, I can put this back into circulation, but still enjoy the candles, and kind of takes away a bit of that guilt.
For sure. And do you think the customer also enjoys that conversation around sustainability and enjoys sort of engaging with that and feeling like they're doing something positive?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's something that people want to do more of right now, and they are looking for ways to engage in brands that have values that they align with. And I think it's pushing people to think about their purchases differently. You know, I've got people who would never have even thought about buying a secondhand book, who now it's very much a part of their everyday, that, you know, they would go into a charity shop and just see what there is and explore and be a bit more adventurous with the kind of books that they read. But I think it's creating a brand that people can get behind on more than just like the product. And that's really important to me, is that it is that like community movement towards things that we care about and making small positive changes. I think it's really empowering, because I think you can just feel so lost with the planet and the world and where we're kind of at with the environment and things. And just knowing that you can do a little small thing and like make small shifts, I think is really helpful. And I think as well, there's one thing that I like to talk about, which is surfing the urge. I don't know if you've heard about this, but it's a cognitive behavioral therapy activity whereby when you are maybe like addicted to something, or you have a compulsion to do something, it helps you to slow down. And so I have this for shopping, where I just want to buy all the things. But if you actually like slow down and take 10 minutes before you make the decision about purchasing something, and like sit with the feelings, you know, like all of that like rush of anticipation and FOMO and adrenaline and all the things that like marketing a business you're trying to tap into, but it's about like slowing down and being like, is this a purchase that I really want, and does it align with my values, does it kind of fit with where I'm at right now? And yeah, just like making really empowered, conscious consumerism decisions. Yeah. So I talk about that quite a bit with my customers, and they really like that, because it's like, it's a really interesting concept that like, I don't have to buy the things that I want to buy in the moment. Yeah. And I just think it's empowering, and it's exciting for people to feel a little bit more in control of the things that they buy, the brands they buy into, and their shopping habits.
Yeah, for sure. And also I think the fact that conscious consumerism isn't just replacing your shopping habit with another shopping habit where you're maybe buying more sustainable things, although there's an element of that, but it's also about consciously deciding, as you say, is this something that I need to purchase?
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to talk a little bit, you touched there on the subscription elements, but I know that's also kind of how your business model works, is that you can buy things individually, but you also do have subscription element to the business as well. So how does that work in the business?
As I said, I started with a monthly book and candle, and even at the very beginning I thought, if this continues, I think that subscriptions would work, because as I've said, like there's a million different books that you can choose from, and getting the right ones, or picking the books that are going to have the highest number of people wanting to buy them and the like greatest number of sales is a bit of a minefield. And so I wanted to do something that would allow me to explore different books with subscribers, and almost like less pressure on the actual book. Like people now come to the subscriptions because they want to try something that they wouldn't necessarily pick themselves. Right. And often it's not the book that gets them on board with the subscriptions. So I have monthly subscriptions for candles, just the candles, and books as well, with a contemporary and a classic option. Right. That is all about making time for yourself and trying new books and finding time in your busy schedule for the things that matter to you, and often, having that escapism, that time away from your stresses and everything. And it started really as that a positive act of self-care to yourself, a monthly book and candle. It's going to make sure that you're setting that side of time for yourself to read and rest and restore. But what it's kind of growing into is much more of a community. So along with the monthly deliveries, I just wanted subscribers to be able to talk to each other, because I was talking to them all and they're great. They're all wonderful people. And I just wanted to be able to kind of connect people within that. So I started, I think it was maybe about 6 months ago, I created a Slack channel for the subscribers called the Book Nook, and that is a chat function where it's separate to WhatsApp, so it's not like I'm texting people or we're all texting. It's separate from Instagram. I was seeing the power of Instagram and like what that can do towards building a community, but I really wanted to also come off Instagram. Like I wanted to give people a space to be that wasn't social media. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So started this Slack channel, and it's not something that all subscribers join in with. Some people just want the books and candles, and that's great. But then there's also a group of subscribers who want more connection, not just through their books and the stories that they're reading, but also with people who are like-minded and similar, and so we just talk all day every day, and it's really lovely. And there's not too much pressure on me to always be answering things, because they talk to each other. Yeah. It's just really special. We have monthly book clubs as well to talk about the subscription book. Yeah. And that's amazing, because that keeps people accountable, makes them want to read the books. We come together, we have really interesting conversations, and we do that once a month. But we've also started, kind of led by the subscribers, occasionally having like a tea and chat in the evening on another week. So yeah, I think just it's been the subscriptions, I kind of wanted it for a lot of the like business reasons.
Yeah, sure.
You know, the recurring revenue, the consistency and all of that. But what it's turned into is much more like the core of the business, like the heart of it. And it's all about the people and the community. So I'm really glad that I took that decision to try subscriptions, because it's led to something that I could never have imagined in terms of where the business is.
And how amazing to have that community of people who were really invested effectively in the business, because that's what's bringing them together. So when you have these chats, then just out of curiosity, is that in Slack itself? So you'll say 8 p.m, we're all going to talk about the book.
No, so we do that on Zoom.
Oh, you do that on Zoom?
Yeah. So we've got our Slack channel and we've got different channels. So people are talking about the books throughout the month.
Yeah.
But then we do get together on Zoom. So we are having, you know, good chats online. I think what's great about an online book club as well is that it's quite scary to go out and find a local book club. You know, if it's something that you want to do, or, you know, maybe it's scary, maybe it's just not possible. I've got people with young children, and to jump on a call for an hour, one evening a month is like a godsend for them, because they get to connect with people, but it's not kind of having to push them too far outside of what's manageable within their life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really lovely.
And I'm sure they're your biggest advocates as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, one of the benefits of having that group is that they are super fans, you know, they love the business, they love what I'm doing, and they support through everything. They're the ones who love to share things on Instagram, always talking about the business with their friends and family. So yeah, it's great.
So if someone's listening to this and they think to themselves, wow, okay, that sounds great. I love the idea of creating, effectively what you're doing is creating an ability for your customers to sort of talk to each other without you. I mean, you are there, but you're not always there. If you were kind of doing this from scratch, I know that it's not something you engineered exactly, it's something that kind of grew organically. But if somebody was listening to it and thinking, okay, maybe this is something I might want to implement in my business, do you have any sort of things that you've learned maybe about how it works? Or, you know, how do you, I suppose in your case, it was very specific because it starts with the book, but do you think it's about working out what that common ground is?
Yes, I do. And what I would say is that starting this community building was maybe one of the most challenging things, because what I did was I did take it quite slowly. So I started my book clubs and I was doing them as Instagram lives, and people were coming and joining. And there were 2 or 3 people who the first few were there, and they were engaging and they were answering the questions about the book. And only then did I feel like, oh, okay, maybe we could come off Instagram Live and we could have a Zoom chat. And I had, you know, 2, 3 people. Like, it was so small in the beginning and it was hard work. And, you know, when I started the Slack, I messaged a few individual people who were the ones who were maybe talking to me the most, and said, I've got this idea. I'd love to get you on board. Like, it's just going to be a few people. We'll just trial it. We'll see how it is. And I took things really slowly, and that made it feel manageable to me, because it kind of like set my expectations in terms of, it's not going to be like a huge, massive community straight away. But it also, I think for me, like always taking the customers and the subscribers along on the journey is really important. So being very transparent that this is what I'm trying to do. I want to be able to connect you guys. I think it's going to be great for us to all talk about the books together, but also just being brave enough to take those first few steps. And, you know, in the first few months, being okay with if there's only one person turns up to the live chat, and just sticking with it and knowing that it's all going to pay off, because there's definitely been times where I've just felt like, oh God, this isn't working. It's not, like, there's not enough people. I think when you're trying to build a community, you do have to have enough people to make it worthwhile people joining. Yeah. Because if it's just you and one other person, it's like, oh, well, it's not really a community. It's just me and you. But just like trusting that it can grow, but it can grow slowly, and just having like small expectations and just trying to get to the next stage where you can, invite more people in, and also just having the confidence to like directly ask people to join. I think that for me has been crucial, because I think sometimes, you think, oh, well, I can just put a post out on Instagram and I can send an email and see who turns up. But it's only really when I've directly spoken to someone and said, do you want to join the book nook? Do you want to come over? We talk and it's lovely, and it's just a nice community. That's where I get the most people saying, yeah, okay. And also people who just don't read their emails, who are not paying attention. And that's fine. But I think being quite like brave and forthright and just doing it, putting your plan out there, but knowing that it might take time, and that's okay. But communicating that with your customers so that they know that it's like, it's something you're working on and it's something that you want to build.
Love that. Yeah, fantastic. So sticking with it, waiting for that critical maths, and then also, as you said, asking, extending the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, well, amazing. Well, thank you so much for a fascinating chat. So to finish up, I'd like to ask, this is a new idea. I'm going to give this full credit to Vicky from Mean Mail, who came up with this idea, since this is the Resilient Retail Game Plan, to ask guests about a time that they've had to be resilient. So a moment that you were resilient in your business. So do you have anything that springs to mind, and what was it that helped you get through it?
So I think for me, this Christmas just gone, I had basically designed a product that was so difficult to make and so time consuming. And I'd had this idea since the beginning of the year. I wanted to make an advent calendar. Right. And it was a beautiful tea light, 12 days of Christmas, tea light advent calendar, 12 different tea lights inspired by different books, all in sewing machine stitched envelopes made from book pages and then tied together with different ribbons. And it was beautiful. But oh my goodness, it took me so long to make them all. And what I did was, as I was getting closer to the time, I was starting to realize how long they were all taking to make. And I decided, I'm just going to put them on sale. I'm going to sell this number because I feel like this is all I can manage. But then selling them, like they were kind of like on a pre-order, selling them and then having to make them. I was just working so long, so many hours, like hand making these beautiful advent calendars. And I, really had to make the number because I'd sold them. And it was tough because it was like, I hand make my candles, but it was a different level of handmade. And what I needed was a lot of cheering on from my partner, from my friends, from my community, and just like sticking with it and just being like, it's okay. You don't have to do this again next year. Just keep going. But on top of the advent calendars, I was like launching all of my Christmas products. So things were getting busy in so many different ways. And I think, realizing that I'd planned to make them all in the summer and I just hadn't. I thought, no, I'll just take some time off. But knowing that actually, like, I definitely could have been more prepared for that. But just sticking with it and knowing that you can always change things, and I don't have to do it again that way this year. And yeah, just like sticking to my guns. It's a great product. People are loving it. They're selling really well. That's amazing. But you're just going to make them, and then next year we can do something different.
Amazing. Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you for that. So do you want to let everyone know where they can find out more about you and Wild Books?
Absolutely. So on Instagram, I'm at Wild Books Co. And currently my website is botanyandbooks.co.uk, and that's going to be changing to wildbooks.co in May.
Excellent. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Catherine.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. Do come over to Instagram at Resilient Retail Club and let me know what you took away from it. Are you thinking about putting any of those elements into your business? What were your key takeaways? And of course, I always love to see it where you are, where you're listening. So do feel free to share a photo of where you are when you're listening to the podcast. I always love to see those and reshare them on my account. If you have a moment to like or subscribe to the podcast, then all of that helps. And of course, if you have a moment to leave a review, that is hugely appreciated as well. And you can even rate the podcast now on Spotify as well. So why not give us a rating? It all helps get the podcast out to more people. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretailclub.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, the Resilient Retail Club is the place for you. With a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretailclub.com.